Joseph Moncure March's 1928 poem, The Wild Party, about sex, jazz, drugs, and infidelity during the Prohibition, is the subject for both a Broadway and off-Broadway musical. The first to open is Manhattan Theatre Club's off-Broadway production, which stars Julia Murney as Queenie, Brian Darcy James as Burrs, Taye Diggs as Black, and Idina Menzel as Kate. It is book, music, and lyrics by Andrew Lippa, choreography by Mark Dendy, and is directed by Gabriel Barry. The second Wild Party is the Public Theater's Broadway production, which stars Toni Collette as Queenie, Mandy Patinkin as Burrs, and returning to Broadway, Miss Eartha Kitt as Dolores. It is directed by Tony Award winner George C. Wolfe, with music and lyrics by Michael John LaChuisa, and a book by Messieurs Wolfe and LaChuisa. This week we'll take a look at both Wild Parties, beginning with the Public Theater's Broadway production, now in rehearsal for an April 13th opening at the Virginia Theatre.
Queenie was sexually ambitious. Queenie was sexually ambitious. Queenie was sexually ambitious.
You loved this poem the first time you read it, didn't you?
Yeah, because Michael John brought it and I went, this is amazing. I didn't know anything about this poem. It was totally scandalous and incisive and smart and sharp and severe all at the exact same time.
But then you expanded on this whole thing. Talk about the other books that came into play, the Ann Douglas book.
And the Ann Douglas book, this book, Terrible Honesty, it's called Mongrel Manhattan in the 20s. And to me, it's one of the most brilliant books written about American culture. And I read the book maybe about 2 years ago when it first came out, and it was so exhilarating because I'm drawn to the 20s. I don't know why. I guess maybe I killed somebody or I was some scandalous personality in the 20s. I keep on going back to the 20s, but this book just, it is so smart about culture, and it talks about fundamentally how jazz and the exchange of culture that happened between black and white artists, it was unprecedented in this country, and that jazz became the liberating art form that freed writers like Hemingway, like Fitzgerald, like T.S. Eliot, and I just found it so, and she tied in the building of the skyscrapers with Ethel Waters singing on Broadway. It was just this incredibly expansive view, and the way that I think culture really exists, because culture is not just this isolated form, it's a mirror reflection of everything that's swirling around it at the time. So therefore that was just very much so a Bible, if you will, a source material when we were thinking about evolving and coming up with the vision of the show. And so it's informed why certain characters are played certain way, the direction of the journeys that people go on. So in addition to being this very intimate love story in a very strange way about Queenie and Burrs and Kate and Black, the central characters, it also is about the world that swirls around it. So each of these other characters became reflections not only of the manifestations of love, but reflections of the cultural, political, social, scandalous world that was New York in the 1920s.
I wanted to know these people, and I wanted to tell 15 stories all at the same time. I knew that I wanted to have a certain burlesque attitude about it all, that it's a vaudeville, that the audience is, that the actors and the performers in the show, the characters, are constantly engaging the audience in the piece. Not only to watch them perform in their good moments and their happy moments, but to also be witness to their downward spiral, or not even downward spiral necessarily, but the peeling away that happens throughout the course of the show as the masks come off and the powder disappears and the rouge runs, and I wanted the audience to be complicit in that. And we do that by making sure that these numbers have all nice big buttons and applause and vaudeville turns. So that was, first and foremost in my mind about the piece. I thought, this would be a good show to write, the numbers for, because these characters, all vaudevillians, need numbers, and that was very important to me to sort of see through and in the score.
Yeah!
in February, George called me up and sent me this piece, and I read it, and I don't know from reading, I'm not a very good reader, so I didn't know about that, and I hadn't heard the music, and I came in and we talked about it, and he played the music for me. Michael John played the music. I was flipped out by the music, and I said, look, I need to be with a director, to have somebody direct me. It's been a long time since I've been with a really great director directing me. When you do movies or TV, it's just little piecemeal stuff. And so I need that. I need to be with an ensemble, a family. I've been doing concerts by myself alone up there, which I love doing, but I miss, it's a whole other world to be with a family. And so I need that. So I said, so what do we got to lose for 2 weeks? We'll see what this thing is like. So we do the workshop for 2 weeks. And he blew me away. His energy, his heart, his spirit, his passion, and what he explained to me that was in the piece, which was in essence a fight for light, a fight for light to the very end, that these people are desperately, desperately seeking, searching, and fighting for the light in themselves and in each other's eyes before that light goes out. And indeed, when it goes out, if it goes out, when the gin starts flowing, 1928 gin, which is unregulated gin, which will just knock you right from here to the moon, and the truth gets exposed, and the masks literally come off, and after that truth is exposed, and all the lies fall away, all you're left with is yourself and each other, and so it's a beautiful piece that really teaches you that you can go get drunk and have wild sex and be out of your mind and be performers and be crazy, but if you lose each other, it's over. So it's a beautiful story, and when it all quiets down, when the party's over, that it's only beginning.
I play Kate, who is Queenie's best friend, and before she arrives at the party, there's sort of a little tussle between Queenie and Black about inviting her, because he says whenever the two of them get together, it's always broken glass and dead bodies. And so when I come into the room, it's like the whole energy of the place changes, because now we get to be bad, bad girls. And I happen to bring the character of Black into the party. He's my man that I keep, I pay for, and I really bring him here because I want my friend to experience this life. And we actually sing a song called We Share Everything, and I'm bringing him for her to share. But she decides she wants to keep him, and that's not really part of the deal. So it takes a little turn there that I'm not happy with, and Burrs isn't happy with, because Burrs and I also have a little thing between us, because we're just a happy family.
I play Jackie, who is a, in words, a bisexual hedonist drug abuser. Very wealthy, very rich, very old money. What's the word? An heir baby, that kind of thing. In a time when old money meant a lot of money. So he's from the very upper edge of society. But it was a time period where everybody mixed. The whole black community was coming down because it was very fashionable. So you saw all of these people and barmaids and doormen. Everybody was mixing in these same big social parties, as well as the big social people were going up into Harlem, into the smaller clubs, and getting all of that, or coming to parties like this, Queenie and Burr's party, down in their little, studio apartment. Everybody mixed. It was a very, I know it sounds funny, it was a wild, wild time, but it was extremely innocent in its aggressiveness, in its hedonism, because nobody knew that there was consequence. And Jackie is especially that type of person. Money is not an object in his life, so that's never a question. He's just poor little Jackie.
Some get given everything they need. Well, that's a lucky break. I steal what I can take, and I roll, and I plead, and I duck, oh yeah, and I bleed. Some are born to rise above sleepless nights and slow gin love, love, love.
Coming from this film?
Having the nomination for The Sixth Sense.
Having a nomination in general would be a complete hoot, but this film in particular it's really strange. I haven't told anybody this. I don't know whether I should, but I was walking down the street in London, and I was just thinking to myself, I need a change in my life. I need a change in my life. And that film honestly landed in my lap. I was completely wrong for it. And I still don't understand how I got the part. And when we did it, everything seemed so fluent, and it just seemed to happen with such ease, and there was a definite focus and a definite palpable energy on the set, and I just found it really moving, and I responded to it on such an emotional level.
We do the same way as an audience. It's a movie that I've seen 3 times, and you see so many different things when you go back, and you feel different things each time you see it.
Yeah, it's very the writer and director is very focused and very confident, and he lets moments just kind of sit and breathe, and I think it takes guts to do that, because I don't think most people trust their audience, you know, and he just tells this very good story in a really wonderful way.
Well, this would be the same thing, I think, with this. Is this a dream come true for you?
To be on Broadway?
Yeah.
Well, it's probably even a dream that you wouldn't dare dream, you know, coming from the western suburbs of Sydney, and I always used to watch those musicals on television, and Broadway was this place, songs are written about it, and, you know, it just seemed so far away, and yeah, I guess it is a dream come true.
All of us kids, we were a nervous wreck because we were expecting you all to come in this afternoon.
Sure.
And we walk into the building and here you were, ready to go.
So what was it like for you to finally throw this up in front of a live audience, a little bit of a show?
Scared to death. That's what I was all about, and that's what I am always all about. And I think that anything that is taken for granted really should not be taken for granted. But at the same time, I do feel that being so shockingly thrown into a shocking position puts the mind in focus, and that's what you have to do.
Beautifully put.
Thank you very much.
Tell me about the character Dolores and the journey that she takes in the Wild Party, please.
Dolores, well, I guess George Wolfe hired me for this character because he said only Eartha can do this character. Because she's in some ways something like Eartha Kitt is. She's, well, as people say, sharp-witted, fast-tongued. But Eartha Kitt is always, I think, I hope, with discretion, yes. Whereby Dolores may not be. Because she may say anything, like she's advising Queenie. I, as Eartha Kitt, would never advise anybody unless they asked me to, and then I'll give you my opinion. But in this case, she's advising Queenie that if you keep behaving this way, in this very derogatory manner, you're going to be destroyed. Because she says to Queenie, this is Dolores, you remind me of so many dancers that I've danced with who had tremendous, they all said they were going to take their wings and fly, but instead they opened their legs and vanished. And then she keeps going. You know, she doesn't stand there and go like that. But Eartha Kitt would never do that to anyone. But there is something of the character that obviously is in Eartha because she's been there and she's seen all of this. And Eartha Kitt has always been on the fringes of it, but she never stepped over the circle, the rim of the circle. She's been a star all over the world, as it says in the play, and so therefore she takes advantage of the fact that these 2 new guys whom she's never seen before comes into the party, and she's auditioning. Always. But then I feel that we're auditioning anyway every time we step out on the stage. I'm going to try and do the best I possibly can because that's where my next job lies. How I'm affecting the public at this particular moment. So we're always auditioning.
We're looking at a female who had driven men to homicide. Look at these beautiful legs. These legs were